From several unsolved disappearances to one of the weirdest mysteries I've honestly ever heard of. Here are the top 5 terrifying mysteries solved by the internet. Number 5 on this list is the case of Carolee Sadie Ashby. A horrible and scary case that took over 50 years to solve and was only ever solved due to the internet. What Culture writes, solving a mystery that's been plaguing a family for almost half a century can sometimes start with something as simple as a Facebook post, and that's what just happened in solving a 1968 hit-and-run case. After going down to the shops on Halloween, 4-year-old Carolee Sadie Ashby was hit by a drunk driver who didn't so much as stop to check on her. The case had haunted Russ Johnson of the Fulton Police Department for years, and no leads eventually led to the case to go cold. On retiring, he took a chance, posting details of the incident to a Facebook page that dealt with local history. From there, a woman reached out to him and they had their first lead in decades. The woman used to live in the area and told Johnson about how local man Douglas Parkhurst had asked her to give him an alibi if the police were to speak to her. She explains that she rejected his request, not knowing what he might be needing an alibi for, but secretly suspecting it could be related to Carolee's death. All those years later, the police department reopened the case and questioned Parkhurst again. Clearly, having a few decades to let his guilt stew had changed Parkhurst's outlook, and he admitted to killing the girl, having been drinking that night before getting behind the wheel. This was 50 years removed, and so the statute of limitation had changed, and therefore Parkhurst actually couldn't even be charged. This was really sad for the family of this girl, obviously, but at the very least, they discovered who did it. This is super real and just so sad, honestly. A girl as young as that to be taken so soon and unexpectedly at the hands of a drunk driver. It's good to see the internet figure this one out, but the best case scenario would have been that it just never happened at all. Number 4 on this list is Sam Whitehorn. Okay, so I'll be honest guys, this one isn't quite as terrifying as some of the other ones on this list, but it really hit home with me, so it's making a list. I am a massive Green Bay Packers fan, have been for years, and will be for years to come. That team has already put me through so much emotional agony, but it seems that fellow Packers fan Sam Whitehorn got some physical agony instead. Sam was in Portland walking around with a Green Bay Packers beanie on. The altercation happened when several Seattle Seahawks fans approached him and started getting very aggressive. It escalated and they beat Sam senselessly, sending him to the ER. Just as quickly as they came though, they were gone, and with no idea who they were, it was impossible to direct the police to them. Well, Sam's girlfriend posted this story on the internet and it started making waves. So much so that the Green Bay Packers organization themselves stumbled upon it and used their resources to post it everywhere. To my knowledge, this led to the discovery of these men and ultimately their arrest. Sports is great fun and it's a roller coaster of a ride, but these guys took it to a place that it never should have gone. Number 3 on this list is the discovery of William Earl Moldt. William Earl Moldt was a man who lived in Florida back in the 90s. On November 7th, 1997, William went missing, and it literally took 22 years before anyone found him. The case had gone completely cold, and nobody had any idea what the heck happened to Will. Enter in the internet and Google Earth. A technology that literally wasn't even around back when William was alive was the thing that finally found him. William was found immersed in water in his vehicle behind some houses in Florida. Behind these houses in Florida, they have a backyard, and then a little bit behind that is just a tiny lake out back. It really isn't that far at all from the homes, but the water is mucky and gross. Barry Fay is the person who lives in the house that's closest to where William was found, and it was a neighbor to Barry who was on Google Earth when they spotted the car. The police went to go check it out, and sure enough, they found an extremely calcified car and the remains of William Earl Moldt. He must have been driving down this road on the evening of November 7th, swerved into the lake, and done so in a fashion that nobody recognized. It's impossible to say whether it was the crash that killed him, or if he drowned in the lake, or if he was already dead behind the wheel when he drove into the water. Either way, I think what's super scary about this case is the fact that this was literally behind someone's home. Really makes you wonder what sort of stuff do I have out back of my home that I haven't come across yet. Number 2 on this list is the Strongsville Skeleton. This is one where Reddit was able to get to the bottom of an icy cold case. What Culture writes, Lots of interesting things have been discovered on Reddit, but this really takes the cake. The website helped find the identity of a skeleton based on research that was carried out a decade before the birth of the internet. Back in 1975, a trio of boys found a skeleton in the woods of Strongsville, Ohio. They further noted that the body was that of a white woman in her early 20s, but that was about all they could gather. Fast forward a few decades, and a woman called Christina Skates began uploading her research into the case on Unsolved Mysteries, another popular amateur detective site called Websleuths. Thanks to her information and the images of the skull, an artist called Carl Kopelman was able to put together a reconstruction of what the skeleton may have looked like when alive. The illustration ended up looking strongly similar to Linda Pagano, a woman who had been reported missing a year before the skeleton was discovered. DNA testing put this theory to task, and it was confirmed that the unidentified remains could now be identified as Linda. I can't imagine being that family of Linda and hearing literally almost 50 years later that those remains found so many years ago was her. Also too, just the story of the boys stumbling upon the skeleton, like, that's kind of creepy in its own right. It's still impossible to know who actually killed Linda, but being able to give the family some closure is still important nonetheless. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Post-it note mystery. This one honestly really struck a chord with me and is truly terrifying. What Culture says, in 2015, Reddit user R. Bradbury 1920 posted to a legal advice thread asking what people thought of his predicament. He kept finding Post-it notes around his apartment, and given that he lived alone, he figured that it must be his landlord leaving them when he wasn't in. This is a problem because usually you need to be alerted when your landlord is coming into your home, never mind if they plan on leaving things behind like cryptic notes. It became even more of a problem because it wasn't his landlord at all, and suddenly the man was faced with the real mystery of who was coming into his house and leaving notes for him. A bunch of theories were floated, even including multiple personality disorder, but eventually one stuck. It was carbon monoxide poisoning, causing him to forget that he had left himself notes. Sure enough, he installed a CO2 alarm and found that he was being slowly poisoned. If it weren't for the fellow user making the suggestion, that OP may have well ended up dead. Can you imagine being slowly poisoned and not knowing it at all? In your own home as well, where you're supposed to be safe. Then having that poison affect you so much that you're literally lying in this dreamlike state, forgetting everything that you do. This sounds like something written by the writers of Fight Club, honestly. It's just so creepy to me to think that someone can get to the point where they aren't even aware of their own actions anymore. Like, what if this is happening to me or you right now, and we just don't even know it because we keep forgetting? Really creepy stuff. But there you have it, guys. That is our list of the top 5 terrifying mysteries solved by the internet. Please comment down below what you thought about this list and some other creepy internet mysteries that you may know about. Also, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Nicholas Playlog, and I'll catch you next time.